You're the patriots. You are the patriots who showed up. So if not you, then who? And if not now, and let me tell you, it took us 2 months to figure out how to run a campaign. The professionals would have nothing to do with us. Raising money, have no idea how to do it. Still don't know how to do it. I'm trying to learn from Shannon a little bit. And let me tell you something. There is no substitute for walking up to somebody's door and talking to them and listening to them and finding out what they're passionate about and what they care about. And you'll be shocked at how helpful people will be. And our campaign was started and formed on people's front porches. Our campaign headquarters was an In-N-Out burger. We designed a mailer. People said you need to have money, you need to do mail, you need to do this, and all this kind of stuff. We wrote it all down. And then we did it our own way. We didn't have a single professional. We had 0 endorsements. But we figured out one day all we needed to do was get one more vote than the other guy. And on election night, the night before election, I walked to another 60 houses. Had my buddies walk in the same neighborhood. I grabbed a guy who was walking his dog. His dog is sitting there doing his business, and I got voted. We didn't know what an absentee ballot chase was. We looked it up on Google. We made signs. Our signs had a message. It never said Republican on it. It just said patriot, not politician, and it had a picture of a man, Colonel John Parker, with a rifle. People said, oh my gosh, that might rile up people in Los Angeles County. And I said, why would it rile them up? They're getting shot at every night. You know what? In one end of my district, people would come up to me and say, Mr. Donnelly, where do you stand on the Second Amendment? I said, you know what? I love you. You're so skeptical of your government, and that's what we need. But you know what's great? And you know what the story is? The story is that just when they count us out, that's when we have the most hope. They have given up. People have given up. They're leaving the state. Yeah, we have a bunch of worthless politicians. Great! You know what George Washington was facing? He was facing Prussians. What are Prussians? You ever heard of a Prussian? That's a profession. They were or Hessians, I forget, whatever. They were professional mercenary soldiers. They were fighting for money. Just like our politicians are representing themselves for the money and for their own interests. They are no match for a small band of patriots. This group in this room is enough to take back Sacramento. How many of you belong to a church? Holy moly. All right. How many members in your church?
200.
How many in yours?
1,000.
How many in yours in the back?
About 2,000 families.
Excuse me?
2,000.
Oh, we're done. You guys don't even get to tell me. Because that's enough grassroots right there. Because our entire campaign was grassroots. Entirely. Door to door. We printed 25,000 little tiny postcards. Tiny. My buddy designed it. In the In-N-Out burger on a napkin. And let me tell you, the type was so small I almost didn't send them because I couldn't read them. We sent 17,000 to 2 Republican households for $5,029. I borrowed that money because I read in the FPPC stuff that you could borrow money. I didn't have any campaign consultants because they wouldn't work for me. They didn't understand when I said I have $1,000 in the bank. They heard he only has $1,000. It was negative thinking on my part. The guy tried to hire me after I won the primary. Or he tried to get me to hire him. But, you know, grassroots. I grassroots John and Ken, KFI. You guys heard of John and Ken? They're the most powerful radio guys. They are in my district. They wouldn't give me the time of day. So I went to their radio station. I had a commitment for $700. And I knew for $800 I could buy 2 30-second ads. And I just trusted God would provide. I went in there, writing a check, knowing I'd have to figure out some way to get the money in there. But walked out, They wouldn't give me the time of day. I couldn't get in to see them. So it was a waste, but it was a good ad. I figured, hey, somebody will hear it, maybe I'll get some donations. I don't know, but I got to be on this air. And I walked outside, and 2 donations came in and covered it. I went home disappointed. 3 weeks later, I went back. This time I didn't care about me. I'd given up, completely given up. I bought 2 more ads. Literally 2 30-second ads. But they have 50,000 people listening at any given moment. Couldn't get them, didn't even try, went outside, was sitting out kind of dejected, and I needed to go to the bathroom. And I live 2 hours away from this place. And I'm pissed. I just spent $800. Where's the bathroom? Come on. So I went back up to the 5th floor, and I said, where in the hell is the bathroom? I'm sorry, but I'm frustrated, and I just spent $800, and I can't even find the bathroom. And they said, oh, there's the secret door. Which I was actually happy to know about, because they have them in every building. So I went to the secret door, used the bathroom, come out, I bump into John. And I've been on his air back when I was the leader of the Minutemen. And I said, John, you probably don't remember. And John says, I recognize you. Oh, excuse me? He says, your face is everywhere. You put up a billboard at the bottom of Highway 18. You put some mobile billboards on the back of some cars. In one weekend, I saw one in LA County and one in San Bernardino County. Well, we only had 3. I mean, we're talking grassroots here. We buy 2 ads at a time. So I said, I know the guy likes numbers. So I said, hey, I think we're beaten. The main candidate spent 170. We've spent, between what we raised and borrowed, about 23 to this date, and I think we're winning. And I was looking for this really nice brochure that we designed at my buddy's kitchen table that had a picture of the border fence and all the, every idea I've ever had. It was a mumbo-jumbo. Every political consultant looked at it and said, that is a piece of garbage. It looks like it's designed by a high schooler. I had given them that before, but I thought he just didn't see it. But all I could find was a little tiny postcard. I handed it to him. He takes that little postcard, and he says, you know what? I'm going to give you a plug. So I go home. I get in the car. I call my wife. I call my buddy who has the digital recording equipment. I said, we may get a little plug from John. We need to record this thing. Anything with grassroots, you've got to capture every bit of those resources. There's no money to pay for stuff. You've got to have a message, and you've got to get it delivered. KFI is the biggest megaphone in the world, West End. So then we're driving, and we had raised enough money to mail the last 5,000 of our little postcards. The problem is they were in bags. They were in people's bags all over the district. We have a couple dozen people working. So I got all my precinct leaders, drive to Riverside. We're going to sit in a parking lot, and we're going to organize these cards and set them up and write back in the boxes that came in, because you can't have one way and one the other way because they won't print right. So we're sitting there doing it while we're listening to John and Ken, and we got all 5,000 organized. We had handed out 2,000 in person, and we figured this is our last attempt, and I don't know what we're going to do after this. And we drive away from there, get the postcards delivered. We're driving down the road, and John comes on the air. He says, hey, I ran into a candidate. He sits in the parking garage, still back. Ran into a candidate in the parking garage. And Ken says, oh, okay. Big deal. He says, well, it's Tim Donnelly. Oh my God. And Ken starts going, you know what, you can't be doing this for every, and he keeps arguing. John's going, well, anyway, and Ken's like, well, what are the chances of a political candidate running into you? He goes, what's the guy doing, stalking you? Because he's been sending emails here and having people send, and he's really frustrated because we had a whole email campaign trying to get them to put me on the air. They took out the sitting assemblyman. He was one of the votes for taxes last year that nobody can remember their name. His name was Anthony Adams. The people tried to recall him. Now the recall ultimately failed, but I figured these guys who were big on it would champion. And Ken is just determined to shut John down. If you've ever heard that, it is never going to happen. Because John will talk over anybody. And so John finally starts saying, he says, let me tell you about this guy. He just reads my card, the parts that were big enough. He said he's the only candidate that's done anything about illegal immigration. He formed the largest Minuteman group in California, and gave a couple details. Business owner, he's never been in politics. And then the news lady says, are you endorsing this guy? And John says, what the heck? Yes, I am. And he reads the whole thing again. And he keeps saying my name. And every time I hear my name, I'm going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And he says, yeah, Tim Donnelly's the only candidate who's done anything on illegal immigration, which is one of the biggest issues in California, especially down here. You know what? Go vote for Tim Donnelly. I'm endorsing him. 6 days before the election.
Wow.
So the night before the election, I'm knocking on doors. And people haven't decided to do that before. And let me tell you, went to a number of doors where people had heard that on the radio. And I already had that. But I got signs in their yards. And I didn't want to have a single yard sign left. Because I had paid a lot of money for those things. You know? Hard-earned money. And so I'm walking, talking. I went in this one neighborhood. You got to understand, we didn't have lists. We're going to every door. We don't know if you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. But I had every single one of those kind of people put yard signs in their yard. And I ran on one single issue. Period. Because I'm running against 6 Republicans. We're all the same on taxes, guns, whatever. Government, size of government, regulations. But I've done something about illegal immigration, so that's my message. I'm going to bring the Arizona law to California because we had discovered it polled well in our phone bank. We were calling people this one day on May 8th, and nobody, people are who? And you're going to get that. They aren't going to know who you are, and they aren't going to care. You got to make them care. You got to connect. It's this fundamental connection. So one of my callers, we only had 4 at this huge phone bank. We had 4 people, and I'm listening to all of them, and I'm making phone calls. She said, the question was, what's Tim Donnelly do? How's he any different? He's going to bring the Arizona liar. What? Excuse me? How do you spell his name? And I could hear the lady through the phone. And I was as far as I am from you. I could hear her. She got excited. So I said, stop. We have a new script. I'm bringing the Arizona law. That's it. And let's spell the name. 2 N's, 2 L's. Out of 100 phone calls, 80 votes, 2 volunteers. We used up all our yard signs until the crew came in with more. Because then I took all those same people out and some new ones to walk. One thing that one of my volunteers did is accidentally call the guy who had the most money, who was in the lead. You know what he was doing? He was home watching whatever is on May 8th. Football, basketball, I don't know what's on, but he was watching it in his living room. He answered the phone. And it was an accident. We didn't mean to call him. I didn't know it was a tactic, but I loved it after she did it. So then I went up to his neighborhood and I walked down his street. And I put yard signs so that he would not forget my name. And I had people wonder about the immigration issue, and I'm walking up to every door, and I have a Democrat who says, you know what, I don't agree with the Republicans on anything, but we need to do something about this, and I want a yard sign even though I can't vote for you. I walked up to a lady's home who's talking to me in broken English, and she's Hispanic, and she wants to hug me, but she's afraid. She says, thank you for talking to me like an American. I'm sick of being lumped in with the illegals. My family did it the right way, and we sacrificed to become Americans. She was so ardent about that that it took away my fear. Because there is a difference. And this is a massive problem, and we need to do something about it. But we connected with people by listening to them. So when I met Meg